A show about a year ago of all of the human phenomena that I've studied in my life or I'm aware of, which is the one that has surprised me the most about human nature. And I paused for a second and I answered the inability of people to change their minds despite overwhelming evidence to the contrary. Justin Trudeau comes in, he does a disastrous job. What do Canadians do? Re-elect him. That's not enough. Let's do it a third time. Then he steps down. Maybe it's time now to do some autocorrection. What do Canadians do? They re-elect the party that put them in the position that we're in right now.
Gang, what's up? Aaron here, Canadian Looney. How's everybody doing? So what a strange time in Canada. There has been so much duping and fooling of Canadians. Elbows up. We can start there.
All right. Elbows up. Elbows up.
What we do here is show you the things that I'm basing my opinions on.
Happy birthday. A few days short. A few days short, but didn't have a chance to see you on the day.
I share some of my opinions. I do a little bit too much of that. That's not what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to show you.
Reticent to
Because
talk
I'm
about
a good
that.
because I'm a good negotiator. I have negotiated a number of situations in the past. I know how to manage crises.
Why it is I think the way I think, like the evidence that I see. Today, we'll get into something very interesting.
These are Muslim values. These are Canadian values.
Hey, that's something everyone can enjoy.
Came close to being with you right there at Harvard in the 90s.
Oh, that would have been an interesting early convergence. Yeah,
That's right. The world had to wait an extra few years before we met.
yeah. Well, that DEI issue, you sat on many hiring committees, I presume, and it was certainly the case that really all the way back, as far as I can remember, even into the 80s, if there was a candidate who was of minority status, whatever that minority happened to be, the hiring committees, even that early, would bend over backwards to bloody well make sure that they got the job, and I would say from the 80s through about 2005, 10 maybe, merit was still essentially prioritized, but all that other idiocy had come creeping in. And of course, by 2010, you might as well just have thrown up your hands in despair and headed for the hills, which, essentially I did 6 years later. And I think we'd got to the point where, and I was probably still like this, I think it was 70% of early applicants, like early stage career applicants for junior professorships in STEM fields in California, which was an excellent state system for a very long time. They're turfed out of the competition before their research dossier is evaluated. And of course, and that's from their DEI statement. Yeah.
Well, it's only gotten a lot worse since you left. So let me give you, or for your listeners and viewers, a few recent stats. So the Aristotle Foundation released a few months ago a study at Canadian universities, and they did a content analysis of Canadian job openings, and in 98% of the postings, there was mention of diversity, inclusion, and equity. I mean, if it were 20%, it would be a disaster. But imagine where it's 98%. I think it was something like 477 out of 489 postings involved diversity, inclusion, and equity. And to that point, as you probably might remember, I held a university-wide chair for 10 years, and it finished in 2018. When I then started thinking about applying for, the next term, the next 5-year term, I then decided against it because I was under the requirement to provide a diversity, inclusion, and equity statement, which I wasn't willing to do. So it has now been probably 5-6 years since I last had university-based research funds. And so in a sense, I've been forced out in my ability to pursue my research because of many of these ideological commitments that you have to publicly proclaim. It's horrifying.
Yes, well, and I've been watching Harvard struggle with Trump and the research community as well. bleat and beat their chest about the fact that, well, the only reason that the researchers ever provided the requisite DEI statements was because the government had made it mandatory. It's like, so I guess mandatory cowardice is an excuse for what? For selling your soul to the devil.
Yeah, it's amazing.
No.
I'll give you another amazing example.
Yeah,
I've been on leave now from Concordia, which, the university was kind enough to grant it to me.
They were probably relieved, Gad.
I didn't want to say it, but thank you for saying it. They were probably all
no
celebrating.
Problem.
Yeah,
I'm sure they were. That left-wing hellhole, that university, that terrible pro-Hamas, constant protesting home of the resentful and miserable, that Concordia?
That Concordia. Their 5-year strategic mission is to indigenize and what's the other term? I can't remember the other term. To indigenize the curriculum. So imagine, how do you indigenize number theory? How do you indigenize differential equations? How do you indigenize evolutionary psychology?
1 little, 2 little, 3 little Indians? Is that how you do it?
You're going to get me into trouble.
It's me saying it, Gad, and I've already been in plenty of trouble.
Fair enough. So, it's very, very difficult to live in the ecosystem. I think when I first heard that you were leaving academia, I felt a bit of tension within myself. And that on the one hand, I was, oh no, Paysan is leaving. On the other hand, I felt somewhat envious of you in that while I remained in the ecosystem of infinite lunacy, you were out, man. How you feel now that you've been out for a few years?
Well, it's worked out very fortunate for me because, well, for a variety of reasons. I mean, first of all, I've been on a nonstop lecture tour really since 2018, punctuated by various, fits of illness. And so what's my alternative? I can teach 150 kids in a classroom that looks like some sadistic architect designed it, for denizens of hell, all fluorescent lights and concrete blocks and hosable architecture, and they can sit in desks and be numbers in a 60,000 person monstrosity of gigantism while being lectured by the DEI mavens, or I can travel around the world to speak to paid audiences about exactly what I want to talk about and do something different every night. So that's a pretty good deal. And then we set up Peterson Academy, which is thriving. I just finished teaching, recording a new Maps of Meaning course. That was my cardinal course, I guess, at Harvard and the University of Toronto. And it'll be produced at the highest possible quality and then shown to our 45,000 students. And that's growing extremely rapidly. So, that's the upside, and there's lots more upside associated with that. But the downside is I had a pretty good research career, Gad. And that's the one thing I haven't been able to replace. Well, that and my clinical practice, because I'm too evil to have a clinical practice. So, oh, by the way, I should tell you this. This is pretty funny in the most darkly horrible, quasi-totalitarian, idiot Canadian state manner. So, the College of Psychologists have deemed me, what would you say? I need to be re-educated out of my climate apocalypse skepticism and my disdain for the trans activists and my belief that maybe we shouldn't cut the breasts off 13-year-olds. All those terrible things that sane people know to be true deep inside of them, like the fact that there are actually men and women.
I was asked on a show about a year ago of all of the human phenomena that I've studied in my life or I'm aware of, which is the one that has surprised me the most about human nature. And I paused for a second and I answered the inability of people to change their minds despite overwhelming evidence to the contrary. Justin Trudeau comes in, he does a disastrous job. What do Canadians do? Re-elect him. That's not enough. Let's do it a third time. Then he steps down. Maybe it's time now to do some autocorrection. What do Canadians do? they re-elect the party that put them in the position that we're in right now. So I think that answer that I gave, it was a British psychiatrist who was hosting me. I think it's that much more apropos today. It is almost impossible to get someone to change their opinions once it is anchored solidly into their personhood. So there you go.
As a European, I am a European,
European.
actually.
Oh, you are?
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah,
oh.
I'm an Irish citizen. Yeah, so there you
welcome,
go.
welcome.
Speaking as a European.
WTF. Here, here.
How many kids did you molest with Jeffrey Epstein?
More than just elbows.
And as the most European of the non-European countries.
Being aware of what potential conflicts of interest you
What
sought
possible
to avoid.
conflict would you have, Stephanie? Stephanie, I'm complying with the rules. I'm complying with the rules in advance. Come on,
These are Muslim values. These are Canadian values.
Hi, everyone. Congratulations, you're spending more money on taxes than on food, clothing, and shelter combined.
Hey, that's something everyone can enjoy.
All right, gang, thank you all very much for watching. Aaron, Canadian Looney, like, share, subscribe. Smash that subscribe. We're trying to grow this thing. Canadian Federal Politics. Get yours right here. Thanks for watching. We'll catch you in the next video.